Welcome to Guy Code, a podcast dedicated to imparting dad wisdom to my son, with your host, Koji Steven Sakai, and friends.
All righty. Welcome. This is Koji, and this is episode number 34. I wanted to impart all my wisdom to my son, but of course, my son already thinks he knows more than me. So instead of trying to tell him now and having it go in one ear and out the other ear, I decided to record all my advice here in the hopes that maybe, just maybe, when he's ready, he'll listen to my advice in the future and not make the same stupid mistakes I did. I'll bring in guests to impart their wisdom as well. I have no doubt that their advice will be better than mine. This week, I brought on comedian and my friend, Paul PK Kim. How are you?
I'm good, Koji. Thanks for having me. I think your pod, this is awesome. I think it's actually very moving. There's a couple movies, and I've also seen on YouTube where parents and fathers have left their final advice because they knew they had some sort of terminal illness or something like that. But this is awesome because one day he is going to watch every episode.
Well, the funny thing is actually that when I first started, all my friends were like, "Are you okay?"
I know. To be honest, when you first hit me up too, I didn't want to ask, because it's I don't know. It's like we don't get to talk much, so I don't want to first thing like, "Are you all right, man?" So it's so good. Actually, I have a few podcasts with my kids on it too, and I'm now that I'm on here with you, I realize I gotta download that and make sure it's permanently somewhere.
Well, actually, it's funny because I got asked a couple years ago. I got asked by USC to get all my archives and all my stuff after I die, to will it to them, and then which I didn't want to because basically they want to just own everything I own, right? So take my copyright. I was like, why would I do that? But what it did make me think about was I needed to I have everything saved on Dropbox. So I realized I needed to save everything in a way that my son could understand it. These are things I own. These are things that I got hired to write. These are drafts. These are things I would never want anybody to see, and it took me an entire year just to organize it, to rename it, to classify it. I did a little bit at a time, right? I didn't do all of it, but it was really, really, it took a long, cause I just, I thought that if I died, I didn't want him to be like, what the hell? There's millions of folders here and none of it seems to make sense. Right. And at the same time, I think my mom was she had passed away or she was dying. And I remember going through her stuff and being like, this is a picture of a mountain. Great. And I throw it away because there's no context to the picture. Yeah. And I think, so I was trying to mark everything and be like, okay, this is when we went to this trip. And I put it all in one folder. This is when, blah, blah, blah. This is when I was a kid and I wrote bad poems. Here are the bad poems. But it did take a really, really, really long time to do. But it was good. Hopefully he'll appreciate it in the future. I don't know if he will.
Oh, dude, you're awesome. No, I know you're a great dad too, because I remember we emailed, you said that you played catch with your son. It actually kicked me in the butt to take out my son more and play catch with him too. But it's you said something how many, 100 or 200, I don't know what the number was. You made sure that you guys were throwing the ball.
Oh yeah.
Of times.
Yeah, I've been having him bat since he was 2. I've been working on his swing. That's why my wife hates it, but I hate when he swings the wiffle ball bat. And I hate when he swings it because it ruins his swing. My wife is like, you gotta chill out. I'm like, dude, I've spent 10 years on that, or 6 years on that swing. I don't want him to ruin it.
Awesome. Wait, how old is he now?
He's 8 now.
That's amazing. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I hope he's on the Dodgers or something.
That'd be awesome. That'd be my dream. The worst would be to be on the Giants or something, and then I'd have to really think about my life at that point. Well, PK, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Born and raised in Burbank, California. The greatest city in the world. My wife always laughs at that, but it really is. And now we live in La Crescenta. We have 3 kids, and we're just trying to survive this crazy pandemic right now, the craziest world. I'm a corporate recruiter in the day. As you know, you've helped me. My true passion is stand-up comedy. I've been doing it for 15 years. All throughout the 15 years, I had a day job too. So it was nights and weekends. And, most entertainers have to do that
Yeah.
You know, until your income, it beats your day job, and then you can really pursue it. So I'm
Yeah.
still in that world. This year is an anomaly, and I'm gonna try to hit it hard again next year. But right now, just working for the fam.
Yeah. Great. Well, we're gonna go over life advice for this episode. So why don't you get us started with some with your first advice?
Life advice. I definitely think, whenever it is you decide you're done with academia, like for some people it's college, some people grad school, some people high school, to really, I mean, if you know you're doing, a lot of people that don't know it, but if you know it, like for me, I knew it, I was just too scared to go for it right away. Like if it's stand up or if it's you want to write a book, if whatever, journalism, production, direct, like to really go for it, and think that to 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 be like, one foot in, one foot out, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
And to be really disciplined. I just finished that book, The Compound Effect, by Darren Hardy. I wish I read that earlier. And then there's another book called The One Thing, where just to really focus on that one thing and just hit it hard, laser focus, instead of just being like all over the place.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. I mean, same thing with me. I mean, I think I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was like 13, 14. But, when I looked around at my life, there was no writers around me, or the idea of being a writer was crazy. And so I think I spent the next, at least the next 10, 15 years, or 10 years probably, trying to be everything but a writer, and then realizing slowly that I just couldn't do that. I just couldn't.
Was it, do you think, what was the reason why you think?
I literally didn't see anybody I knew as a writer, so I didn't think it was a real job. It's like something I love to do that I just didn't see a way to make money doing it. And I just couldn't, and so I kind of like you talked about, you have like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and I'm kind of dabbling. And it was actually, I was interning at one of the Cosby Show showrunners production companies, and he pulled me aside and he said, he gave me the best advice I ever got, which was, that he said, I'm a talented writer, but I haven't focused. And because I haven't focused, I'm not going to get anywhere. And what he meant by that was, he said, because I haven't focused, I could I wrote poems, I wrote short stories, I wrote screenplays, I wrote TV stuff, I wrote everything, but I wasn't getting good at any of them. I was okay at all of them. And so then he said, there's this nerd in a basement who's writing screenplays every single day of his life, every moment of his life, and he's going to get really good because you're messing around writing poetry. You're messing around writing all these different things. And so that really kicked me in the butt, and I realized I need to learn how to write really well in one thing. And so then he said, you can always go back to the other stuff later. It's not like you have to stop writing it, but you're right, you have to focus. And this is one of the reasons I play this guy named Billy Alsbrook. Have you ever heard of Billy Alsbrook?
No.
This guy on YouTube. I'll send you a link if you want. But he's like a motivational speaker, but he's kind of hip hoppy. I think he used to be a rapper. But his we do it when we go on a run. Me and my son, before this all fire thing, we go on a run every morning. I play it for 10 minutes of this guy just talking about focus, talking about fighting you back. In terms of going for what you believe in, and the difference between being a star and being the person watching the star. I don't know if he likes it, but I like it, so we play it.
No, please definitely send that. I love that stuff. I get so amped up. And it doesn't really take people are they always worry about I'm not ready yet, or it just really takes that daily block of time that you're committed to. And look at Seinfeld. That's one reason why he's there. He never cheated that daily block of writing time.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's there's another guest who talked about this, but he said, even if you don't know it, your passion or what you want to do, you actually do, you're just not admitting to it. And he's all we spent so much time saying we can't do something. And so we actually, whatever we love is already in front of us, but we just didn't, we've ignored it or pushed it to the side or discounted it. So I do think that's really interesting. Although, I'm always curious what that thing is for my son. What about for your children? Do you have a sense of what their thing is, or do you still
Yeah, my 11-year-old son, man, he's a gamer, man, computer gamer. But I'm always encouraging him more like, hey, do you want to play the game and you'll make some money, or do you want to make the game and then you could do whatever you want every day for the rest of your life, including retire your parents. So I mean, like he is, yeah, he's in it. And so, but I'm very worried. I saw that Netflix documentary, Social Dilemma,
Oh
the
yeah.
other day. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Dude. And so, like all the people that created, I mean, it's gaming's different from the social media aspect, but the addictive part of it, the dopamine is there. And all the creators of these networks, they don't allow their kids to be on it. That in my mind. And so definitely we have to limit his time on it, and the younger ones too. 8-year-old daughter, 5-year-old boy, they're just on the iPad too. So I don't know. I talked with my wife about it, about how much time they should be allowed to do. At the same time, right now, there's fires. They can't play outside. There's smoky outside.
Yeah.
Pandemic. They're inside, working at home.
Yeah.
How much can we do? We can't sit there with them all day long, and then like definitely reading is number one option. But then after that, it's like, you got to let them connect, do something online, or
Yeah.
games. So they're definitely in that world. I'm just worried.
Yeah, one of my really close friends, his kid got into Utah State as a gamer scholarship.
Whoa.
Yeah, and he kept telling me he's an athlete, and so I was like, oh, and then eventually I was like, wait, what does he play? He's like, he's a gamer. I was like, fucking, that's not an athlete. I mean, that's cool that you did it, but you're
carpal tunnel, dude. It's crazy, but it's so crazy how much money esports makes. Good.
It is. It's crazy. I still think it's weird that people watch other people play games. I don't understand that.
That pisses me off, dude. Like, I took this is a few years ago. I took my son to I guess he was like one of the top guys who plays games online. And then so we went to a live show. It was packed, it was a bunch. It's like mostly like, dads with their sons, but there's some moms there too. And I could tell, like, I'm looking around, the parents, and we're kind of like eyeing each other, like, hey, what is this? Like, we didn't really know. And it's the live show was us watching him on stage playing games. And it was like $30 each. I was, dude, I was like, what and we were way in the back. I was like, dude, oh my, and he was making so much money. I was like calculating. You know how hard it is for us to bring like 50 people to a stand-up show for like half free guest list. You guys like crushing it. Yeah,
So crazy. Those guys. Actually, that reminds me of one time I was at the San Francisco International or Asian American Film Festival, and I had a movie playing, and next door was packed, just full of people in this auditorium, and I was like, what's going on in here? Because ours was like half full, or it was pretty full, but it wasn't full. And I looked at it, and I saw all these kids on stage, and I was like talking to somebody. I was talking to the people from the festival. I'm like, who are these people? And they're like, oh, they're YouTube stars. This is before YouTube was big, right? And I was like, wait, who are they? And later I found out I knew like Kim Jamba and all those kinds of guys.
Yeah.
But it was just, I was like, wow, this is crazy. There's like, there's like 80 people at mine. There's like 5,000 at this other guy, at these other people.
That's crazy. And the beginning, like around mid 2000s, it was out of the top 100, like 50 of them were like Asian.
Yeah.
And then the Asians got like pushed down as all the other groups figured out, oh, you can make a lot of money off this. Asians were leading the charge in that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, do you have any other advice?
I definitely want to tell your son that your dad loves you. I really think that whether you make it to the major leagues or not, that the discipline of playing baseball every day is going to help no matter what, any sport.
Yeah.
But as a recruiter, I love baseball because it really is just keep swinging the bat, averages, and really understanding each pitcher. Like, I call people and you have to like understand each person and know their stats, their background, their habits. And I don't know, baseball's such a great metaphor for everything in life, you know.
Yeah.
Just keep trying, keep swinging the bat, being a good team. I played Little League, and I was the second to worst player. I only say that because there was 13 of us, and you know, Little League, everybody has to bat.
Yeah.
And I always batted 12th. But then I always thought like maybe I was the worst, but then I was the only Asian kid out of all white kids, and they didn't want to maybe look like they were racist. Because there would be some racist parents, man. I like if I struck out, I would just hear "Open your eyes," and I'm like, how can I do that to the other kids? I don't know, but you know, Little League parents are nuts. But I was so bad that my mom couldn't even bear to watch me. It was painful for her, so she used to leave early and wait in the car.
Wow.
But I was a good fielder, man. I played right field, center field, second base. When I moved to second, he put me second base, dude. It was like a monumental moment for me, man. Turning double plays, dude. That uplifted my confidence as like a fourth grader, man. I just remember even of playing 3 years of Little League made a profound impact on me for the rest of my life.
Wow.
You know, so I think that it's really good for kids to play.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think team sports are really important. I mean, especially like in baseball, the thing I always have to explain to my son is that, you know, it doesn't matter if you get a hit or you strike out, because when you come up again, you got to forget that. You got to forget whatever happened last and just go and just do it again. And that's just like in real life, right? You could strike out or you could do something amazing, but you can't worry about all that stuff because it's already in the past, you know?
True.
I don't think my son's going to be baseball. I mean, he's actually really good at baseball, but I don't think he loves it. His thing is jiu-jitsu. He's really good at Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Dude, I really want to get, once this thing is, you know, over, I want to get my son to jiu-jitsu. He did taekwondo, he's up to red belt, but almost all of my friends that do jiu-jitsu said, dude, you got to get him. And not only for,
this is way better.
You know, give them confidence in every other area of life.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, like my son does boxing and jiu-jitsu. My son like competes nationally.
Whoa.
And he and you know, like my wife thought I was teaching him how to be a fighter, and I was like, it's actually the opposite. You know, because that means that when he goes into a bar,
exactly,
and he's like the toughest guy in the bar, I'm like, I even told my son, I was like, if you get in a fight, you've lost. Because you should know that if you really fight this dude, you're gonna hurt him. So you should walk away. You should be the man and walk away. Unless they're like physically attacking you or attacking your friends, you should be like, I don't want to fight you. You know, go away, right? Because you know inside your heart that like, you know, you can like funny. I walk to school with him, and every day I'm like, I mean, like, you know, he fights like fourth grader, or he last year was like second grade. He was fighting like he could fight fourth graders. He could beat fourth graders who are like double his size. And I'm like, there's nobody at this elementary school that could beat you. You know, like, there's no reason to be afraid of any of these people. Like, you shouldn't go look for it, but there's no fear there. You know, and so much of like being confident is about. It's not about like fighting. It's more of like, I'm not going to back down, but I'm also not going to look for it. You know, it's that like, it's that, you know, it's funny. Have you ever been to, what is it called? A Great Wolf Lodge?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was at Great Wolf Lodge, and there's this large dude that was next to me, and his two boys were in line, and they were making fun of these girls next to them who are like big and kind of like large.
Dad too?
Yeah, no, just the kids. And I just remember being like, these kids are, you know, and they're just really mean. And then me and the guy got into kind of the verbal situation. And I just
he was defending his boys.
Yeah, he was defending. Because I just told his kids, like, you know, chill out, right? Like, that's not appropriate. Just don't say anything. I didn't even say, I wasn't mean back because they're kids. I'm not going to. And then the dad stepped up, and I'm just like, you know, like, I'm not going to back down. And it was a great situation, because it's not like I'm going to fight this guy because we're at Great Wolf, you know, we're at like these places, but it's just that confidence of not having. But you should totally get your kid into jiu-jitsu. I think it's like, I mean, even for me, it's like the best thing I do all week. I'm not good at it, but it's the best thing I do all week for sure. It's so much fun.
My friends that are into, I have 3 friends that are really into it. And when I opened for Joe Coy at Hermosa, I was back in the green room, and you know, I was just talking to these 2 dudes. I don't even know who they were. And then all of a sudden, Joe Coy's like, "You don't know who these guys are?" Like, because I usually MC weddings almost every Saturday. It was like my side hustle, and I don't get to watch MMA. My friends are so into it, and they were like 2 like big time famous MMA guys. So I took a picture with them and then I forwarded it to my 3 friends, and they're like, "Yo, I can't believe that you're like just following me on Instagram." I'm like, what? I'm like tripping out. But I'm really getting into it now because now on the YouTube channel they're starting to release a lot of the fights. And I've been like watching. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I definitely want, more than, the jiu-jitsu, I just want the confidence.
Yeah.
My daughter was getting picked on, and then he said after she does jiu-jitsu, she's completely.
No. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are like girls. There used to be girls in my kid's class that would kick the crap out of my kid, and they were like smaller, and you could just be like, dude, if anybody messes with these girls, they're gonna get because the thing about jiu-jitsu also is that it's meant for younger it's meant for smaller versus bigger.
Yeah.
Right? That's like actually the whole point of it. And the other idea is that, and it's actually funny because I went to a self-defense class with my friend because she wanted to take this class. And so I went with her to the police station and we took this class, and like almost everything that they did was jujitsu. And I was like, well, but you can't do this in one night. That's not like, I can't, like if you expect to use any of these moves in a real situation, you have to practice at it. And that's the other thing about what I love about jujitsu. I feel like I'm selling jujitsu, but one of the things about jujitsu that I love is that when you spar, you're actually sparring, in that you could do anything and I could do anything short of punching and kicking you.
Yeah.
And so it's like it most resembles a fight. So that's what I tell people about martial arts, is that the best martial arts are ones that actually resemble a fight.
Yeah.
Because if it's like I did like other martial arts where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then you're gonna block it, and then you're gonna do it back to me. But
it's like a scripted acting thing. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like dancing. And I'm like, dude, in real life, what if they don't do that?
Exactly.
What if they do something else? Whereas like if I'm fighting somebody who knows jujitsu, it's a certain type of fight. If I'm fighting somebody who doesn't know jujitsu, it's just going to be a different kind of fight, but I could still do that fight. It's actually going to be easier. It's just going to be a little bit more unpredictable, but it's still like, it's just an easier fight because now I can do I don't have to worry about countering any of your moves because you don't have any moves. That's the only difference. But yeah,
I'm a big Rogan podcast guy, so
he talks about that. Yeah.
I'm always listening to that. And Rogan talked about how Andrew Yang, one of his proposals is that every law enforcement at least have a blue belt in some sort of martial arts, but essentially jiu-jitsu, because it's going to make them not trigger happy. They're going to be more like confident about being able to handle a situation, not like some random frat guy that's always fought drunk and then we just give him a gun. He has no training and then he's just, like. Yeah.
There's a famous YouTube video where the Gracie brothers, they broke down this situation with this police officer. And he was like this small guy, maybe like 5'10". He was like trying to arrest this guy who's like 6'5", like 100 pounds heavier than him. And he was able, because he knew, you could tell he knew jiu-jitsu. He was always in control of the fight on the ground, and he never had to pull out his gun the entire time. So, and they showed that if they were showing like, if he didn't know anything and he would have pulled out a gun and shot him earlier because he was so out of control. He would have been out of control. He would have been fair to this bigger guy. Yeah. He's African American. He's going to shoot him. But this guy never needed to because he was always in control of his, situation, right? I totally. If more police officers knew, like even that the Wisconsin one, it's like, dude, you couldn't bring him down. Like that's a basic move. Like, how did you let him walk all the way around the car and reach into the car, right? Like, there's like 4 cops, and there was and all you had to do is just take him to the ground, and you don't have to choke him, you don't have to, shoot him for sure. And if you're that worried about your life, you just take him down. It's not that hard, especially if you know some martial arts. But yeah, you should totally take your son and be really. I mean, it's even now, like me, my son and I still train, and he actually started to beat me, which is pretty funny.
You're lucky you have a son, because my friend has 2. Actually, yeah, 2 of my friends are really into jiu-jitsu. They have 2 daughters each. I don't know. It's not the same. I don't think they can really roll around with their daughters the same as like their son jiu-jitsu. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they
can't do it with their wives. And then so like when they're in quarantine, they were going through this like, I can't do, because they're addicted. Like it's like 2 times a week.
Yeah, no, that's
when he first started, we used to live together in West LA, and he would practice on me and show me moves and stuff. And when his girlfriend would walk in the room, he would be like, "Oh my God," because he would just be completely mounted on me. It looked like we're dry humping each other. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to get off. And she'd always be like, "What is going on here?" Like every time I walk in the room, you guys are just like on top of each other.
Well, yeah, I never was so close to guys before jujitsu. Like now I'm like all over guys. I mean, it's funny because one of the funny things is you feel like you actually know these people really well. It's like because you're so like you're basically humping them. And that one guy was like we became kind of friends, right?
Yeah.
And he and I just thought like we kind of like knew each other. We hung out a little bit, and then all of a sudden like I looked at like his Facebook page, and he was a QAnon guy,
Oh.
and I was like, oh God, I have to get over like I can't think that I know these people, you know, because I like do jujitsu with them, but because we're so close, it feels. And then I was like, oh wait, this guy's like crazy. I mean, he's totally bought into all that crazy shit.
My friend John, that's really into jiu-jitsu. He said that his jiu-jitsu community he's in is completely divided in half.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of that and politics, and it's sad that it's like the comments are so aggressively violent, almost like it's civil war almost. It's like it's so sad. Like I don't know. That's a whole other thing. Yeah, forget. I mean, I know we're talking about advice and we went there, but yeah, 100%. That's awesome. Your son's doing that, and I definitely am gonna get. My son was born 2 months early. He was born like pounds. We were really worried. Now he's okay, but he's always going to be on the smaller side of his grade.
Yeah,
he definitely. You know, I grew up really skinny. He's like skinny, so I just want him to not feel afraid. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always the skinniest kid, and it was either I only got in 2 fights. It was either fight or be funny, and I chose be funny, dude. Like way easier, like growing up, you know, because I never took martial arts. So my parents, I don't know, didn't have time. So I just realized, oh, okay, I can be like funny guy and kind of be cool with everybody, you know. But at the same time, I don't know. This world is progressively getting crazier, man.
I mean, I was funny because there's this in first grade. There's this bully. He was kind of bullying all the kids in my son's class, and he ended up at my son's academy, and he wanted to spar with my son. Because like my kid was smaller than him.
Dude, this is just straight up Cobra Kai karate kid stuff, right?
It was hilarious, and so like, but my son's good, and so he just took him down, choked him, let go, and then he did it like multiple times, and then later I was like, this is the guy that everyone's afraid of. Like he doesn't know anything. He's a joke. He's just bigger and crazy.
Holy beatdown, man! I love it. That's one of my favorite things.
But it's just like most of those guys don't actually know what they're doing. You know, because I fought a lot when I was a kid, and I knew that ultimately I just needed to punch them. You know.
Where'd you go? Where'd you grow up? What city?
I grew up in South Pass in San Marino, but
okay.
It wasn't like a violent school or anything. But I just was like, I was looking for fights. But you know, I knew that these people that talk big, like you know, like the joke about anybody who talks big is usually the first moment they get hit in the face or they get hit. It's that realization. It's like, oh my God, I got hit by a human. And like that, like most people don't get up after that, whether not because they're knocked out, but just because it's like, oh my God, it's like I got hit. Yeah, the shock of being hit and that kind of like this is like your car accident, right? And I knew if I just hit somebody, it's done. And so, you know, that was always the thing. But with these bullies, it's a lot of times it's actually funny because a lot of times I would fight the bullies and I'd become friends with them because I think something about bullies, there's like a physicalness about being bullies. So if you like stand up to them and you fight back, they want to be your friend. But if you like kind of react in a scared way, they're going to keep bullying you and get it worse and progressively worse. So my theory was like I just like punch them in the face as hard as I can. And then I usually became friends with them later.
That's the difference between men and women though, you know?
Yeah. That's a huge difference. Well, that's to me sports though, to get back to our sports thing. I mean, to me, sports is the great equalizer for boys, you know? Because I was a super weird, awkward kid. I mean, but I was good at sports.
Where'd
So
you play?
I played baseball, water polo, and then I played Japanese American basketball. But then I knew that if I could play anything, and if I get on this field, I'd be fine. I'll make friends and I'll be cool. But I knew that, you know, like, and it's the kids that don't have anybody that get picked on, right? When you like, if you're the worst player on the baseball team, you'll still like the best player on the baseball team doesn't want to see you get your ass kicked, right?
Yeah, no, I made JV tennis and I made JV volleyball, and I was like one of the worst, right? But just the fact that I was on the team, like being in the practices, going to the games together in the bus, like being on the team, like it made a huge difference.
Yeah. I mean, it's like being a pretty girl. If you're a pretty girl, you'll always land on your feet at school. Because, I mean, right. I mean, it's reality. Teachers will teach you differently. Other kids, the girls will treat you differently. They want to be your friend because you're pretty. And boys will treat you differently because they're boys. You know, it's kind of, but like, you know, being a handsome boy doesn't really mean anything. Not as much. I mean, unless you're really handsome.
It's a different world.
It is. It's like sports. I mean, but sports is that thing. I just remember because I changed schools and just being like, I need to go play. Like in the middle of like, you know, recess or like lunch, I'd go to play basketball. And then all of a sudden I'm friends with everybody because I could play basketball, you know, or I could do things. So anyway, what do you have other advice?
Yeah, I would just say respect and love your dad and your mom. That's being lost in our society too, you know.
Well, why do you say that? Why is that important?
You know, like just the way that kids are allowed to talk back to. I mean, you know, you definitely should be able to conversations. You know, should be definitely open, but it's just I don't know. It's too much lack of respect, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just different, you know. I mean, I think that when we were kids, one of the biggest differences in kids now and when we were kids is that the lives of kids and the life of parents were like two separate lives living in the same house. Now, as you know, it's a lot different where your life and the kids' lives are intertwined. Like their friends are your friends, the parents are your friends, and you know,
a lot
like
of the parents,
right, they all kind of know each other. Like, you know, because I remember when I was a kid, when we had parties at home, the kids would be totally playing by ourselves, and the parents would be somewhere else doing totally different things. And so when, you know, like for me, I remember wanting to be in that adult world because it looked so fun. But in reality, like, you know, but now the difference is that the kids now, because they're so intertwined with our lives, they understand that life isn't all that great being an adult. You know, that's the difference. So like, that's why kids don't want to get their driver's licenses. They don't need, they're actually the happiest at their age that they are. Like if they're 12, they're happy being 12. They don't want to be 16. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be 14 so I could go to high school, 16 and get my driver's license, 18 so I could be in college, 21 so I could drink, right? But now if you ask kids, it's like, no, I'm happy being 16. Do you want your driver's license? No, I'm good. And it's interesting. I don't know if it's better or worse, but it is very interesting.
Statistics show the teenage years it's worse now. It's worse.
I think it's just I think it's just more open now. That's all.
Well, I mean, from that social media thing, it's definitely there's way more depression and suicide.
Well, see, I think before, that's what's always interesting is like, because like, you know, like the society we live in now, in every category, we're better than we used to be. And it's just meaning like drugs, sex, you know, violence.
What do you mean though, better?
Like that we have less of all of that. Oh yeah, I mean, like it's because like actually it's funny because the baby boomers had the most sex of anybody in the world. The reason why abortion became illegal was because they were having too much sex. You know, the drugs was rampant. You know, crime was crazy. You know, like now it's like all those statistically we're all like way better. So I just think it's I think a lot of it is just a function of where we are as a society. But the perception of violence, the perception of sex, the perception of drugs, and a lot of the perceptions are worse. But in reality, it's actually better. It just wasn't talked about back then. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, most of the serial killers in our history, in American history, were in the 70s and 80s. You know, now if you had like, you know, there were times in the 80s where you'd have like 30 serial killers running around in our country at a time. If there was 30 serial killers going on right now, it would be like pandemonium. All right. You're like, oh my God, there's like a serial killer everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's the perception of it. So, but I really think, you know, I read this book called The Four Generation Cycle. Have you ever heard of that book?
No.
And it's this book about how American society is always 4 generations, that it's the same 4 generations every single time, and that the 4th generation is always the greatest generation. So the examples of the 4th generation are the 1776 generation, so American independence. The next one was 1860s during the Civil War. The next one was World War II. And the 4th one is the kids now. So my kids, like, that 8-year-old is like the bottom of that
What
generation.
is it called after Gen Z? What's that? Do they have a name for that yet?
No, not yet. But for
Gen
this
Z
one,
is
it's like, oh, go
Gen Z
ahead.
is like the 20s, right? They're in their 20s now.
Yeah, they're in their 20s. Yeah, and so
The
they're
one
like,
after that.
yeah, so it's the one after that. It's like it's basically like 8 to like 18 ish.
Yeah.
But that these kids are, the greatest. They're going to be like I mean, according to this, like if the cycle continues,
Yeah.
they're going to be the greatest generation. But what's interesting about this
I
generation
hope.
is that that's always marked by war. Like think about those last four. They're all marked by major war, and that's why I like it freaks me out is everything going on in this country. But like things like global warming, things like the racism stuff going on now, and just kind of all the violence and stuff. I truly believe that it's leading to something where these kids are gonna like save the planet. I was even telling my son with all these fires going on, I was like, we messed up. We didn't solve this problem. It's going to be up to you guys to like fix this. I'm sorry. I wish we could have done more, but that was like,
I mean, I've been looking at all these Gen Z videos too. I'm impressed, man.
yeah, no, yeah,
Impressed at like a lot of the stuff that they're saying. Like it's just, I'm like, wow, yeah, like very intelligent takes on everything, And it's like, yeah. I mean, on the flip side though, it's like I guess I'm only watching the ones that maybe had a lot of support, but there were a lot of kids just maybe that didn't feel that. I don't know.
yeah. Well, I mean, not everyone in the generation is going to be good, but I think overall, I think it's supposed to be. This is funny because actually, I joined. I'm a civil service. I'm part of if there's ever a draft, I'm part of the board, the California board.
Really?
And I only joined because I thought I'd try to get my son off. But then I found out that you can't. That if my son were ever to be in front of me, I'd have to recuse myself, obviously. But I didn't know why I never thought of that before I did it. But yeah, so like I'm convinced that there's going to be a big situation where they're going to have to, they're going to have a fight at some point. And I just feel like, but I do think that these kids.
You mean against another country or civil?
Something where they're gonna. I think it's gonna be. I think this generation is gonna be marked by a major war, and that they're gonna have to rebuild, just like after World War II, just like after Civil War, just like after the Revolutionary War. I think it's gonna have to rebuild and reconfigure and think about how things changed. So I do feel really strongly, but I do feel like that because if you look at their stuff, I mean, as a generation, they care, right? They're very progressive. They're very open. They're very, they're just like, like, I mean, in my son's like preschool, there was like a transgender kid, like you're just like when we were kids, you couldn't even be gay. You couldn't even pretend, you couldn't even be kind of be gay, right? That was like, even idea of being kind of gay was like, you're going to get your ass kicked, right? Like, even if you weren't, but like did anything that looked gay, it was going to be terrible for you.
Dude, I remember, I don't know if you guys played this game when I was in elementary school. I told my wife where we had it was just like this, whoever had the ball, we tackled them. It was called Smear the Queer.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Dude, can you imagine someone trying to introduce the game they called Smear the Queer? We played it casually like it was nothing. We were like at Thomas Jefferson Elementary School in Burbank. I was like, dude, when I think about it, I cannot believe there was a game called Smear the Queer, dude. I was like, what?
Yeah.
The ball, just tackle them, Smear the Queer.
Well, I remember in 6th grade, my teacher, I think I was a typical kid, boy, and I remember we must have said something that was inappropriate, but I remember my teacher telling me that homophobia was unattractive. And she kept saying homophobia is unattractive. And then we thought it was hilarious because, homophobia. And then, but then like, it's funny because the only thing I can remember from 6th grade was that, or 7th grade actually, was that the teacher told me that homophobia wasn't attractive because later I learned, that it wasn't, like it was actually unattractive. But you just, it's funny what sticks. And, I totally forgot about that game. I remember playing that game. That was a fun game.
Crazy.
Well, I don't even think you can tackle now though. Even just
What's
the idea of like tackling each other. I don't think people could even tackle each other.
You don't even do that, right? Huh?
Yeah.
You're not even allowed to tackle at school. Yeah, we played tackle football, and in 8th grade, my friend he broke my collarbone.
Oh wow.
And then I just remember like, wow, we played that, lunchtime.
Well, even like now, I mean, like, so my son plays soccer, baseball, basketball, and jiu-jitsu, and out of all those sports, it wasn't until this year that they started keeping score.
Oh my God.
But before that, they didn't even keep score.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's why I remember when he was at the first jiu-jitsu tournament, and he got to he was up for 4th place, and he thought everyone's gonna get a medal because everyone gets medals and everything, and then he didn't because they don't. And I was like, yeah, you won that last match. If you win that one, you would have gotten 3rd place. You would have gotten a medal, but you didn't win, so you don't get anything.
See, I'm liberal, but that's why you can go too extreme on anything.
I think so too. Yeah.
You win some, you lose some. But
I think it's an important skill to lose. Losing is an important skill to know.
Of course,
it teaches you to be a good sport, but also to know what you need to do to win. Right? How do you win? How do you know how to get better unless you could win?
Of course, it's ridiculous.
But the funny thing about the kids was that I was coaching soccer, for example, and I remember the kids being there's nobody, they're all winners, because that's what they tell us to say. And the kid's like, nope, we lost 4-3.
Exactly.
Or no, coach, we won 9-1. So I'm like, no, there's no score. No, we won, coach. So even if we don't keep score, they're keeping score.
They're keeping score. Exactly.
Well, it was really great chatting with you. We should talk real quick about the basketball world, because our teams are about to play each other. I'm a Lakers fan.
Dude, I'm a little worried. We have a big game tomorrow, man. You guys are good. Don't worry. I know you'll take them out. But
you know what your team needs? Your team needs a just ball like a pass maker, a guy that wants to get other people the ball and get them.
Yeah, I know. It's we don't have a really good point guard. We have really the defensive guy, but he's not really. He just.
Yeah. That's why I think the Reggie Jackson thing was such a weird signing for you guys.
Well, it was a bargain signing. We have him for under $1 million. So
yeah, but still,
18 or something like that.
I think the only thing you wanted, the reason you got him was so he doesn't go in the Lakers, but because he would have been perfect. He was actually exactly the kind of player the Lakers needed. But you guys needed
Rondo is balling right
now. He is, but he wasn't balling.
It's Ray Allen, dude. What's going on? Dude? Crazy, man. Dude, I really think that's probably the NBA Finals if the Clippers and Lakers played each other. I think that either team could take out the Celtics or Heat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm really curious. I don't know what happened. Why my dislike of the Clippers is very strong. I mean, if you guys played Boston, I would root for Boston.
So I've actually I'm rooting for Celtics Clipper finals, because I know most of my friends are Laker fans. I know that's the one finals it would annoy them so much. You know what I'm saying? I do have some Laker fans that are grudgingly they'll be like, yeah, I wouldn't root for either, but I'd rather have the Clippers.
Nah.
Their teams win. But some of them are like, nah, I'd rather have the Celtics. And I'm like, dang, man, that's not what you hate, the Clippers?
Well, I don't know what happened, but something happened with the Clippers, with you guys. I don't know. Maybe it's just too many conversations with Clippers people, but something happened where it's all of a sudden my dislike of the Clippers became really strong. And I don't know, it became super, super strong to the point of I relish when they lose.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same with Lakers. Trust me. When the Blazers, got one game, I was like, oh, and then after that, I was like, and then Rockets got one game, I was like, oh. No, trust me, dude. I had a couple bets with Laker friends, and so this next few weeks, if they play each other, I mean, it looks like they're on a collision court. It's, I think, true NBA fans that love that game. There's nothing else that's going to be going on during that time.
Yeah,
they're focused.
They match up really well with each other. They're actually well built to play each other, especially if Lou Will sucks as he is right now. This is who he is, though. He's the opposite of Rondo.
He's very streaky, yeah.
But he's also he's also played better. He plays better in the regular season. That's what that was what's frustrating about Rondo is if you told me that playoff Rondo was a real a real thing, I would have been okay with everything that happened before. But the problem was because I watched him play every game, I wasn't convinced that he could actually become playoff Rondo again. I just didn't think that was realistic. And so that's why I hate every time he came in, I just couldn't. I was like, oh my God, he's the worst player in the NBA. But if I knew this was coming, then I could have put up with that, you know. But because I didn't know, yeah. I mean,
right now, man.
like last year he was literally the worst point guard in the league statistically. You know, he had the worst plus minus.
Just sometimes he doesn't look like he's into it.
No, he didn't play defense. He wasn't involved. He was missing every single shot. It was just in terrible spacing because he couldn't shoot anymore. You know, it was just like, dude, he wasn't even trying. Now you can tell he's trying because he gets in the stance to play defense. He's at least trying. That's all we need. You know, we don't need him to play like lockdown deep. We just need him to be not a liability on defense. You know. All right. Well, what's your prediction on the Clippers, Lakers?
Well, first we gotta to win tomorrow, dude. Yeah, I'm a real Clipper fan. We were up 3-1 on the Rockets in 2015 and lost 3 in a row. And that, yeah, dude, I one game, man. But if we beat Denver, then yeah, of course, Clippers in 7, man.
Clippers in 7.
I have to believe that Clippers in 7. I think it's good. I think it's gonna go at least 6, but. Of course, I believe Clippers in 7.
I'm saying Lakers in 6. That's it.
I do believe that Lou's very streaky, and I watch every game. Yeah. He's like Vinnie Johnson from Detroit Pistons a long time ago. Like he would go on these streaks where he would score like 25, 30 points easily, and then he just like yesterday 0 for 5 from threes. I'm like,
yeah. Well, the problem with him is that if he's not making it. He's such a liability on defense. I mean, remember last game that Lakers played him, like before the bubble. I mean, they like every time LeBron had the ball on top, they would just get Lou Will to guard him, right?
There's a weird stat. I'll show it to you. It's when Lou makes his first bucket, he shoots over 50% for like the game. But if he doesn't, he shoots like 40 or 35. It's weird. Like if he makes that first one.
Yeah. But he's such a defensive liability. If he's not making shots, there's almost no use for him to be there. It's like that's what's weird about. I mean, that's what's hard about him. I mean, he's like he's such a great offensive player, but you know, I remember watching him with the Lakers too. Same thing. It's like he scored a lot, but his player would score a ton. I mean, like I was saying, like they were hunting him with LeBron every single time. And there's no way that he can stay with LeBron. You know, they just switch, and all of a sudden it's like Lou Will and LeBron. You're like, this is gonna be great.
I'll say this. I think Doc is overrated. I can say.
Oh, dude, I hate Doc.
Average coach, but he's a good motivational speaker. He's a good dude. Like he's a good guy. Like everybody likes him, and I think especially for all the social justice things going on, like he's really good for the NBA. But as far as like offensive scheme, it's just all ISO ball most of the time. What are you doing in practice? It's just Kawhi, and then they spread out. Give it to PG, they spread out. Or they do a little, like, Harlem Globetrotter weave, or they do, like, a few pick and roll. That's it. Like, there's no cuts or anything.
Well, that's what's frustrating. That's why I think that if you had a playmaker, it could open up the offense a lot more. And because everyone could, like, when it breaks down, Kawhi could just score, right? Or PG could just score. But the problem is that just a lot of times it's like everyone's watching Kawhi do his thing.
Yeah, I'm like, that's why everybody's frustrated. I'm in a whole bunch of Clipper Facebook groups, but Fire Doc has been a common theme.
Oh yeah. Well, as a Laker fan, I'm just gonna say that about Doc is that he's gotten a lot of credit for one title. Everyone thinks he's like the most. I'm like, wait, he's only won one. It's like Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce acts like he's a champion. He won one time.
Paul's ridiculous.
I know, but you talk to him. He's like, I'm a champion. I'm like, dude, you won once. Like, it's not like you were like a dynasty or something.
He's a LeBron hater too.
I know.
But
man. All right.
Exciting, man. I'm just let's just win this next.
You guys should be killing Denver. I don't even understand what's going on. You guys should be like. I thought you guys were gonna sweep. I thought.
Well, that's why Doc's so average. We were up by 20 the last game and we lost.
Well, you're the only team in the playoffs that lost to give up 2 16-point leads, right? Like, that's crazy. I mean, the Lakers do that, but that's just because we just stopped playing for some reason. It's really frustrating. We actually both our teams do that. Is that we both go way ahead of the team, and it's like for some reason we stop playing basketball, and all of a sudden it's like.
But it's also the new NBA. Like a 15-point lead is not that.
Oh yeah.
Used to be, used to be a big lead. Now you need like a 20 to 25-point lead to feel safe. It's crazy. Like It's just you can't even play defense anymore. They call the softest fouls. It's crazy.
Although, to be fair, I watched the 90s. I've been watching a lot of 90s basketball, and that was terrible. I mean, I remember it fondly as a kid, but
Yeah.
it's terrible actually to watch, because you watch it, you realize there's, on any given time, there could be up to 4 players that can't shoot the ball. You have like 4 players out of 10 that are just standing in the key and have no other purpose except to be like 8 to 10 feet away from the basket and to like make your life hard. But nowadays, if you have a 7-footer that can't shoot a 3-pointer, he's a liability. He's probably not in the game, right?
Yeah.
And just the passing, like it was. I mean, just watching, it's kind of like when Kawhi or LeBron or AD do their like one-on-one thing, except in the 90s, it was like all game was that. Like it was actually really not fun to watch. And now you see like passing, you see cuts. I mean, typically cuts, passing, open shots, open threes. A lot, sometimes too many threes, but still,
Way too many threes. It's like when you watch the Lakers, I mean the Rockets especially. I mean, it's not that fun, man. Like the way it's like a 3-point shooting contest.
Although we've stopped. I mean, the Rockets were averaging 50 to 60 3-pointers a game.
You guys got them down to like 30.
30, yeah. So that's why, I mean, we're chasing them off the line. It's
Yeah.
easy if your only place we know the only place you can shoot is at the 3-point line or at the basket. So it's easy to defend that, but that's the problem with the Rockets, is that like day to day on a Tuesday night in January, nobody's going to set up a scheme for you. But on a 7-game series, a good coach will just, they could scheme, right? Get the ball out of James's hand, watch James stand at the half court line, then chase everyone else off the line and force them to do like, either floaters or, 15-foot jump shots that they're not used to. And they miss it. And they're not big enough to get the rebound. Nobody's hitting the boards. And, that's why we like out rebounded by like 40 last time, and it's not a coincidence that like the Oklahoma by like game 3, they had them, by game 3, they were like starting to become a better team because they could scheme, even like Billy Donovan or whatever. Anyways, thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you everyone for listening. We really appreciate it. If there's any of the advice that PK said that you really enjoyed, please tell a friend about it. And please make sure that they let them know that they heard it on the Guy Code, and let them know where they could download it, which is every place podcasts are normally at. Thanks again, PK, and thanks to everyone. And bye, guys.